Thank you for your patience as I got prepared for this video. This was not easy to make. I know I recorded a whole other video before this, like 2 months ago, and it just didn't feel like it was vulnerable. It wasn't as vulnerable as it should have been. Here I am. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so I wanted to come on here. I am obviously here without my glasses um, for two different reasons. One, because the ring light is really, there's just such a bad glare. I don't like how that feels on my eyes personally. Um, and then I don't like how it looks on the camera either. But there's also a strong possibility that I may get emotional in this video. So might as well take them out. Might as well start with the glasses off. Uh, this right here is a video I've been saying I'm gonna drop for a long time now. This is my testimony video. I still believe my story is being written as we speak. I feel like everybody's story is always being written um, because ultimately God is in control. He is writing our stories. He has already written our stories, and so we are seeing it um, obviously through our lives in real time. And I do feel like I am in a season of restoration, and I know that God has really been pushing me to share my testimony this year, um, to where I am now. Truthfully, I don't know how long this video is going to be. I just I hope and pray that you just stick around because I feel that it might help somebody. It might help you. It might be able to help you help somebody else. So I just am here to share my testimony. I don't know what that's going to look like. I prayed before I started. I'm just doing what I'm told, truthfully. So, for those of you who don't know, my name is Jamise. I am originally from Hutchinson, Kansas, raised by a single mother, strong, did the dang thing. I'll tell you that much. Um, and yeah, so I didn't really grow up with a father figure in my life. Um, Truthfully, like I really can't think of a single person that was really like a father figure, like had like took the role of a dad, like truthfully. Now, I feel like my dad was there financially, but did I have him emotionally and things of that nature? No. To this day, it's no. And that has been a journey within itself, honestly. But I feel like it's important for me to tell you that I have haven't had a father figure. I don't know why I feel like that's important, but I feel like it plays a role in the story that has been my life so far. So there's that. Growing up, I would go to church. I started off going to church with my great grandma from my memories. Going with my great grandma and my great grandpa, and I loved it. I loved it a lot. I loved worship, and I really enjoyed going out to eat after church because they always took us out to eat after church and it was a buffet. Um and as I got older, they didn't go as much and they kind of like stopped going just because they were older. And then eventually I was going with one of my cousins, and she's much older than me, but she was always down to pick me up, take me to church. So I was always at church. I mean, like choir, the youth worship director. I don't even remember what the official title was. Something along the lines of that. And I was just always there every Sunday. I did not miss. Like I did not miss. Truly, I enjoyed it, and I always went. However, I grew up going to a Baptist church, and like the word really wasn't like mapped out at my church on like what certain things meant. It wasn't really broken down. It was kind of just left to my discretion at that point on what things meant. I guess like I didn't have a firm understanding of what a real relationship with God was. I will put it that way. But I still always went, and I knew it was important, and I always tried. That's the biggest thing. I did always try. Um, Whenever I graduated high school, was super involved in high school. I mean, dance team, choir, theater, like anything that had to do with the arts, I was in the mix of it. I truly enjoyed um my high school experience was good. I know not everybody's was, but I did have a really good high school experience. And I feel like having a church family or just being at church and have a church community helped me with that as well, and just being so involved. But after I graduated high school, went off to college, went to good old Pitt State, Pittsburgh, Kansas. Um, and I kind of lost my way as far as like trying when it came to even going to church. I can count on one hand how many times I went to a church in Pittsburgh, Kansas whenever I was in college. I don't even yeah, literally one hand. And that's not really the point. The the biggest thing is I wasn't actively trying while I was in college. Like I wasn't trying to have a relationship with God. I wasn't trying to seek what that meant. So with that came a lot of college life things, a lot of partying, a lot of drinking. I definitely wasn't the biggest drinker by any means. But there was drinking, there was a lot of smoking, a lot of smoking. Goodness gracious. You know what? Just when you think about it, just think about where I am now. I think back then, it's like really like it's God's work, truly. Um, I used to argue all the time. I did not care. I would cuss anybody out. Did not care. Nope. Didn't care. Just I did not care, and I didn't try. Truly, I did not. Yeah, I didn't. I didn't. However, once I graduated college, I knew that it was like I stepped into a whole new world. Like I am an adult now. Like I really need to figure things out. And I found myself missing church. I was like, man, I really want to be in the presence of community and in the presence of God more. These were those were things that I was thinking about whenever when I graduated from college. And at the same time, I also was like trying to find a job or like trying to navigate finding a job. For those of you that have graduated college, you know that navigating finding jobs after graduation is not it's not a good time. It genuinely starts to feel like why did I go to school again? Cuz the job market be it don't be what you are wanting to find sometimes for some people. I personally went to school for criminal justice, so do the math, okay? Um yeah. I also didn't really know what I wanted to do either, so that didn't help. But I was navigating that. I was also navigating, man, I really want to you know, date, dabbling into the dating world. So I was on apps. I wasn't on apps. It was not plural. It was one app. Okay. One app was not plural. I don't know why I said apps. I was on a singular app. And I found myself scrolling. And honestly, I wasn't on the app too long before I ran into who is now okay, I'm skipping ahead. So I wasn't on the app too long before I started talking to somebody and getting to know somebody and eventually started hanging out with this person. Um Again, I'm still navigating those thoughts of, man, I really want to get back in the church. I really want to get closer to God. I don't know what that looks like for me. I'm trying to find a job. I started a job and um that's when me and this man began to get closer. I would say we started to talk a little bit more, and you could tell the relationship was moving to be more serious. And I don't even want to say it, you could really tell that, but I know I was making it a point to ask him for answers like, what is this? What are we doing? Because I've just never been the type of girl like, I'm not about to sit here and just like, we're just gonna keep talking. Like, what's the goal? I'm like, what's the end goal? Like, are you trying to be boyfriend and girlfriend type vibe, or what are we doing? It was that's what I was on. Okay. At this time, I was staying at my mother's. Again, this is out right after college. It was not very long after college that I met him. And eventually, we do end up becoming a couple with God. And then it dawned on me after we became a couple, well, what does that look like as a unit? I'm like, that actually should be, I should be focusing on that. Like, does the person that I'm with even believe in God? And I remember we were out somewhere in the car and I asked him, I'm like, do you believe in God? Like, do you believe in God? And I can't even believe I asked him after the fact. But I was like, later's better than never. Okay. Later's better than never. I asked him and I remember him saying, oh, I believe in a higher power. Like, I believe, there's a higher power, but like, yeah, all that God stuff. And I was just like, I don't know how I feel about that. Like, but I also was just like completely smitten by him. I don't know what it was. He was very charming. He was very charming, and I thought he was very funny. And I did feel like he was very handsome. But those were like the main things that just had me hooked, if I'm to be quite frank. Like, I'm truthfully. Um and when he said that, I was like, okay, hmm. So he gets out of the car to go into the store, and I call my best friend and I'm like, best friend, she knows I'm talking to him. And I'm like, best friend, he said he doesn't believe in God. And when I tell you my best friend talked to me so crazy. She talked to me so crazy. She's like, what do you mean he doesn't believe in God? Like, why would you still talk to somebody who don't believe in God? Like, that's the whole point. Like, I mean, she absolutely not. Like, why? Did I listen to her? The answer is no. I did not listen to her. I continued to talk to him, actually. I, quite frankly, we ended up moving in together. Okay. So we're together. I start doing more praying. I, I start, we move in together, we move to an apartment. I start talking to God more. I start praying. I'm more intentional about my prayer life and just talking to God more. However, when things got rough, there was a point in time where things were really rough, like financially for us. And it was hard for me to kind of focus on my relationship with God. Like, in this season of life, that would be an excuse. But then it was kind of like, man, that would be the time, obviously. It was like, man, finances is just everywhere. Like, there were points in time in that relationship, even in the beginning, where I felt like I was carrying everything. Um, like everything was on my back as far as like finances, even though it wasn't. I think it was just because I was making more and it felt like I had to take on more of the responsibility. Um, I mean, but I wasn't as tapped in as I should have been. A lot of things then became really clear to me once I started leaning into prayer, once I started leaning into my relationship with God. And I, again, was really, really trying so hard. It just felt like everything around me was making it harder. I really don't know how to explain it. So we move into this apartment, and over time, there's things that are being revealed to me that I would probably, if another woman did it, I would be like, why? Like, why would you do that? Why would you let somebody do that? When I tell you we were only dating when I found out that he was texting other women inappropriately. Um, and I decided to give him another chance. Did not hold it over his head because, I mean, that's rule number one. If you're going to stay with somebody, you can't hold it over their head. But that was a thing I remember. But then I do remember like just certain behaviors that started to happen from him. And it would be like quickly getting agitated, not talking to me for, I mean, literally probably like over 24 hours. Like that type of silent treatment, um, making fun of me, but it would be to a point like, oh, like clearly my feelings are hurt and you're not stopping. Um, Things started small. Over time, they became bigger. Let's just say that. I caught him texting other females or whatever. I brought it up. It was made to be not a big deal. Um, at that point, it's like insecurities naturally sink in. They naturally sneak in there. Insecurities just naturally sneak on in after that because it's like, what's wrong with me that you had to reach out to somebody else? Like, what's wrong with me? Mind you, I was also living a life where there was premarital sex, and I there was premarital sex, okay? And I do not recommend. I do not recommend, because I feel like in my case, it was really hard for me to see the real of the individual, because it was sugar coated a little bit in lust. It was sugar coated in lust, and that is a real thing. Also, soul ties are a real thing. Soul ties are a real thing. That is a whole nother video, truly. But I do feel like that played a role in my journey and my story and how everything went. So I'm noticing these things. Over time, I begin to notice I am developing a really bad anxiety. I mean, an anxiety that I've never had in my life. I've had anxieties. I had anxieties in the past, but this was a whole nother level. I was anxious. I would be at work anxious. Like I couldn't even put a finger on it. And I remember I started going to therapy because I was like, no, like what is going on? I could not put my finger on it. I was praying about it. I was like, God, I don't know why I'm so anxious. Like, just help me through this anxiety. Like, I don't know what's going on. And a lot of my prayers I would write. A lot of my prayers I would write. I have a lot of journals. And at this point, this fresh and at this point in the relationship, this was early on, I wasn't writing like I had began to write eventually, which I will talk about a little bit more of. So I began to gain this extreme anxiety. And I remember going to a therapy session, and I was talking to my therapist and I was telling her how anxious I was. She kind of asked me about my week as well. And I told her, and there was this big argument that we had, and I wasn't even going to bring it up. I was like, how can I get around this? But it's like, how can you in the therapy office? That's what you're there for. So I tell her about it, and I told her how he had given me the silent treatment for like over a day. Over a day. It Even thinking about it right now, it's like, why would somebody do that to someone? And it was to the point that I was so like, I didn't know what he was thinking, what he was feeling, because he was saying nothing to me. Nothing. I'll try to talk. He would not talk to me at all. Like it would literally in the same apartment, just sitting there, and I'll be saying words, and he just wouldn't say anything. All because of this one little argument. Couldn't tell you what we was arguing over because that's how relevant it was. It wasn't. And I told her about it, and I just remember her telling me that is abusive. She was like, that is that is an abusive behavior. Someone blatantly ignoring you, not talking to you, giving you the silent treatment, whatever you want to call it, to entice an emotion out of you, typically a negative one, that is abusive behavior. And I remember I felt so low at that point. I felt so low at that point, and I couldn't wait to go home and tell him that he was abusive. It was just something about it at that time. Like, I'm gonna go home and tell him that, and like, I hope this just makes him stop altogether. Like, I hope he just stops. That's what I'm thinking. I'm like, he's gonna stop after this because he doesn't want to be told he's abusive. So I remember going home and telling him that, and he just cried. And he cried. And he cried some more. Mind you, I want you to know, out of the whole time I was with him, collectively I was with him for like almost 4 years. that was the only time I ever seen him cry. But I remember him saying he didn't want to be like his dad. And I didn't know that what he had seen in his childhood at that point, or what that looked like in his household. And he really only explained that he's seen his dad do things to his mom. And like that was, or act a certain way towards his mom, things like that. But that was really it. And I was like, like, of course I was comforting him because I'm like, I'm sorry, that you had to see that or deal with that, whatever that looked like for you. And at that time, he did apologize. However, I can say it did stop for a little bit, but things did continue. I did end up staying with him despite every single red flag that was in my way, that was waving in my face, starting with the belief in God. In my head, I'm thinking I could change his mind. Ultimately, those decisions have to be made personally for yourself. A relationship with God is one that you have, it's a personal one. So the idea that I could change his mind into believing is just, I don't know. I really try. I would know. I just remember really trying so hard. Like, let's go to church, let's go to church. But truly, I feel like, from my perspective and my point of view, he only ended up trying to do those things for me, not because he wanted to do those things for himself. Time goes on, we end up moving into a different apartment. This is the apartment where we would get the time we spent in that, the full time that we spent in that apartment, we would go through an engagement, a marriage, and a divorce. Okay. I don't have time to get into every story, but there is something I want you to know. What I dealt with was mental abuse, emotional abuse, and there was a couple of times that things were physical. Throughout this time is where I did majority of my writing, majority of my talking with God. I was really trying to understand this man. I was like, God, help me understand. I would write out, I hope that tomorrow's better. So many things. Another thing to note is I was working at a domestic violence shelter while I was going through these things. And it wasn't clicking for me because I was in it. I was, I was surviving it. I was in the midst of it. And really, you don't, as anybody that has gone through abuse, they know it you don't really see, you don't really see it in its fullness until you take off the rose colored glasses and everything clicks. So I remember getting engaged, and there are some stories that genuinely, like, I can't tell you really the countless arguments and things like that that have happened, and some of it is trauma. It trauma brain, truthfully. Like, when you go through trauma, your brain tries to forget it to protect your body. My anxiety, it got a little bit better, and I don't even want to say it got better per se. I just found ways to cope. Um, Therapy helped. I found a better therapist, but it had gotten to a point where um, I told him again after the engagement, after I said yes to getting married, I gave him an ultimatum. If you don't go to therapy, then we won't get married. Another thing, ultimatums, not the best idea. Probably shouldn't be living off of ultimatums. Probably shouldn't be making decisions off of ultimatums, because usually the person is going to do what you want them to do. In my case, he did go to therapy. Do I feel like he truly wanted to go? No, I feel like he wanted to go because that was the ultimatum I gave him. That's how it felt. That's my perspective on it. And I'd say that because I didn't see him doing the outside work, but I could see myself consistently doing the outside work and seeing growth to be a better person overall, not only for myself, but try to be better for the relationship, because I'm like, I will do anything to try to figure this out. But I didn't see the work being done on his end. Although I gave him the ultimatum, even though I wasn't seeing the work that I wanted to see, I still married him. And it got to a point where it was almost like so hard for me to focus on God because I would be walking on eggshells. It was almost like I made him my God. It was truly almost like I made him my God because I was so focused about what he was going to say about me, how he was going to feel about something that I said, what he wanted, despite what I wanted, how he felt, despite how I felt. It was almost like I made him my God. So, truthfully, honestly, at that point, like, yeah, then how can I focus on God? But I tell you what, I still tried. I still pushed through. And in the midst of it, we did start going to church. Um, right? Where was it? 2018. That was the year. Ooh wee. Everything happened so fast. That was right before we got engaged. Um, Found a wonderful church family. Got in that community that I wanted to get into, met a lot of people, started getting involved in church. It was beautiful. It was really beautiful. It was really hard to have those conversations about God with him and like get into the word with him. I just remember that being difficult. Like it was hard to sit down and like have those conversation and talks or whatever. But he did go to church and I did go to church, and that was a blessing to fall into the church community that I have and that I'm still a part of to this day. Met some wonderful people, some wonderful couples, and they definitely helped me in that time that I was going through so much. And I don't even think, and honestly, I don't even think if I wrote any of this down to be prepared, I would have remembered a lot of it just because of how much I have pushed to the back. Literal trauma brain. Like you don't want to remember how you felt in that time. You don't remember all that. January 2019, he proposed. In November of 2019, we got married that fast. Um, we got married. I know my best friends were a little bit whatever about him just because of things that they have been told, things that they have seen, mostly behaviors that they had seen. As far as things that they have been told, is things that I was upset about or feeling like I was done wrong or talked to wrong. Of course, I would confide in them. At this point, I'm also confiding in God. I just remember writing. I have so many notebooks. I have so many journals. I would write every day, almost every day. I know for a fact that I kept a journal beside my bed And whenever I felt down, whenever I would be mid tears right after an argument getting talked too crazy, and I would pull a journal out and just start writing to God. And right now, what I'm feeling in this moment is like I'm just remembering how I felt in those moments. Those were some of my lowest times in my life. Hold on, let me get some water. A big turning point was right after I had got married. Right after I got married, I went to the ER with some extreme abdominal pain. I didn't quite understand what was going on. As a matter of fact, I thought I was constipated, but I was told I needed to go to the ER because of my pain level. When I went, they did internal ultrasound, they did external ultrasound, they looked all around to try to figure out what's going on, and they did see a mass. Seeing a mass on the right side of my right ovary area. So they're like, "Oh, you have an ovarian cyst, like you need to go see your OBGYN." And, just regular schmegular degular protocol for an ovarian cyst. And they actually told me I could go home, and then right after they told me I could go home, they came back in and told me I was getting admitted. So I was admitted to the hospital, and at that point in time, again, I'm freshly married. I mean, this was not even a month into the marriage portion of this hard relationship that I chose to keep. I chose to keep, and I just chose to continue to try and proceed with. Now, I am being admitted to the hospital for something that has to do with my reproductive system. Something I want you to know is that I have always wanted to be a mother. I always wanted to be a mother. I know for a fact I've always wanted to be a mother. I am supposed to be a mother. I am called to be a mother, okay? And so I seriously look forward to I was looking forward to trying to start a family, okay? And this happens. I end up having to get a surgery, and I end up having to get a surgery, which they asked me what I wanted to do, and this seemed like the safest route, and the route that they were willing to do is for them to go in laparoscopically and remove this mass that we don't know what it is yet. They think it's maybe a cyst or drain it, whatever they felt is best. But it ended up being an endometrioma, which is a type of cyst that you can get if you have endometriosis. Endometriosis. I didn't know that I had that until then. So what ends up happening is they go in, they're having such a hard time getting it from by my ovary and my tube, and my ovary and tube ended up being damaged from that endometrioma, and they had to remove it. They end up having to call a general surgeon in to cut me open, like C-section style, to get in there to get this mass out because it was like a sticky mess. Endometriosis is really like sticky and just, it's atrocious. It's horrible. And yeah, I wake up to a big old incision and finding out that the right part of my reproductive system is now gone. Everything is just. So I'm newly married, just had the right side of my reproductive system removed, and not a lot of hope for what that looked like, as I know that I really wanted to start trying to have a family. Now, I'm sitting here and I'm just super hormonal, of course, about everything. My hormones were out of whack forever because, again, like, of course they are. And then a few months later, the whole world shuts down because of COVID-19. So now I'm not even in community at church anymore. Now I'm at home with my husband. And you really, the longer you are with somebody, the longer you are in the same setting as somebody, especially when you don't really have a choice, you truly, truly see them for who they really are. And I will say, during COVID, there wasn't one, but there wasn't just one, but there was two physical incidents in that year with him. One being shortly after surgery, because my hormones were so out of whack. I was so low, and I got put on a depression medication, which I was okay with, obviously, because I was like, okay, if this is gonna help me feel better, then I'm gonna take it. And then I remember I was still in therapy. I still had the same therapist at this time, but I did get on the medication, and the medication made me feel like I wanted to take my life. And I know that was one of the side effects, but I had never felt that way. I just remember me and him, it was some argument we had. And I just remember him saying something that made me feel even more low. Again, I still got the incision healing. And I remember him saying something that just made me feel so much more low, and like I wasn't a good wife. And I remember taking my medication to the bathroom with me. And I was like, I'm just about to take all this. I mean, I'm about to take all of it. And then I sat there and I was like, no, I'm not going to take all of it. It was really fast. And it wasn't me at all. I was like, no, I'm not going to take it. I'm not. I do remember him coming in there. I was leaning on the door. He was trying to come in there. And truthfully, I just wanted peace. That's all I wanted. I really just felt like in that time, I just wanted some peace in my life. I don't want to argue almost every day. I don't want to feel less than, made to feel less than every day. I want to feel, affirmed by my husband. I want to feel good about the things that he's saying about me, not be stressed about how he's going to make me feel. I just didn't want any more chaos. But I remember him trying to get in the bathroom as I was leaning on the door. And he's like, open the door. What are you doing? What are you doing? You're not going to take all that. Nope. You're about to leave. You're about to go to your mom's. You're not staying here. Da, 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 da. Like this whole thing. And I remember him coming in. Whenever I did get off the door, I was like, I was telling him, I'm not going to take them. I'm not going to take these. Like, I just want to be left alone. Now I want you to leave me alone. Then he wouldn't leave me alone. And he's like, you're going to your mom's. Get your stuff on. You're going to your mom's. You're going to your mom's. Mind you, it is the middle of the night. It is the middle of the night. I am not going to her house. Leave me alone. I go into the room and I'm just like, again, I'm telling y'all, I just want peace. Like doing all this yelling, he told me I was selfish and that was stupid and why would I be trying to do that? And I told him like it was literally a split thought. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. I got my stuff on because all I heard was nagging and all I remember is how quiet I was. I was like, no, I'm not. This is how I was talking. I'm like, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. But I am going to go on a walk because I was like, I just need quiet. And what is more quiet than at nighttime in the dark by yourself? Again, mentally was not in a good place, clearly. But I was like, I'm going to go outside because I'm going to get away from this. And I remember I was trying to go out the door and he shoved me out of the room door, not even the room door, and he had shoved me again. Fresh incisions. Ow. And he shoved me and I was like, yeah, now I'm really gonna go to work because why are you putting your hands on me? This is not a life or death situation anymore. Like, what are you putting your hands on me for? Um, and to me, that I was really hurt and I could understand his feelings and how he would feel for me. That's kind of scary that your wife is gonna go into the bathroom with her bills. I get that. Um, but I definitely didn't need to be pushed, like realistically. That did not need to happen. But I remember that just hurt my feelings so much because it's like I'm literally probably in one of the most fragile states I could ever be in, not only mentally but physically, and you choose to push me. For what? And that was one of the very first things where it was like, okay, like where it was finally like, okay, strike one, despite all of the other things that had happened previously. So I'm going through that and we talk things through, we go to therapy, talk things through. And now we're on this journey of OMG, we're on this journey of me healing. I finally get to a point of like completely healing. And I find another doctor because the doctor that I ended up getting before that did the surgery was not very the bedside manner was not there and he did not care what I said, how I felt about birth control, how I felt about my pain. So I had to find a new doctor. When I found a new doctor, she did another surgery. This is down the line. This is 2021. So we kind of fast forward. But in 2020, um, I did get my master's degree online through the pandemic. I did. And I also got promoted at my job, which were both blessings. At home life was not a good time. It was a lot of arguing. It was a lot of stress. Whenever things good happened, it couldn't just be good and celebrated. It was met with some sort of argument. When I went out with friends and hung out, when I come back home, it's an argument. It and it wasn't just like these random things. It was because he would If something was positive about what I had going on, it was like he had to rain on the parade. He had to rain all over it. Um, which is another controlling tactic. It was very much so a controlling tactic. When I got the promotion, he didn't go out when I went out with coworkers, even though he's invited. And that was a whole argument. That argument turned into a physical situation. So it was just like there were all these different things that began to happen. Like I said earlier, the things that were small in the beginning gradually like grew to be bigger things or things that were just very much more apparent. As I'm going on this journey to, try to start a family and like doing this whole thing, despite all of these things that have happened, all the things that go on in the in between, despite how I'm feeling, which obviously stress plays a big part on how your body responds to things and how your body just how your body is overall. Like your cortisol is off the roof. It's affecting a lot of things that's going on in your body. And I just remember getting a new doctor down the line because we were getting serious about starting a family. But we knew it was going to be harder. It's going to be hard because it had been already a year of trying to conceive. At that point, they say that you have a fertility issue. So we're looking into things that will help me, um, that will help us conceive. And I'm going through to these doctor's appointments. If you know, you know, they don't insurance don't cover nothing that got to do with fertility. They just don't. They really don't. So I'm trying to figure out these loopholes. And like my doctor did another surgery. I say another surgery. The first one was by a whole different doctor, and again didn't know it was gonna happen. This was planned, and they did an ablation, which is where they go in and remove the endometriosis that's there as a endometriosis does grow back. It doesn't just stay away. It just keeps coming. It just keeps coming. It just keeps does its thing. It's really disgusting. It's really atrocious thing to have, truly. Um and she was like, if I go in there and clear it out, that will make your chances more better because there's not all that tissue and stuff in there. So the surgery happens, and this is May. I want to say it's May of 2021. And I think I have that video still up actually of when I got that surgery. Um, because I feel like that's a really important part of my journey. And so I wanted to keep that vlog up. There's a lot of vlogs I got rid of because he was in them. Um, but that vlog right there, I had to keep up because it was a pivotal part of my journey. So after this surgery, all this trauma regarding my reproductive health, again, like I told y'all before, I never stopped talking to God. I never stopped talking to God. And I got to a point where I was like begging God to tell me, like, am I supposed to be here? Am I supposed to be in this? Is this what this is supposed to look like? Am I supposed to be like it? It no. I just needed to know. And I just remember doing all these appointments, all these things, and all these different stressful things to try to make sure that I can conceive without even considering what God's timing looked like for me in the midst of all of this. Like, what? does he want from me? What does he want me to do? When am I supposed to be having a like, is this what you even want from me right now? I wasn't considering those things because I was always truly just trying to survive the day. Just trying to survive the day. But like I said, as I started to really dive deeper and ask questions, am I supposed to be here? Am I supposed to be doing this? Things became more clear. And I just remember one day, one morning, God was just like, leave. Now I know how that sounds. I know that sounds like, nah, like, but my God said leave. That's all I heard. That's all I know. That's all I heard. Leave. Despite countless times of being told to try and to work through it, which I get it. People didn't understand because they didn't know what I was going through. So from the outside looking in, it's like, why don't you fight for your marriage? Why don't you try for your marriage? Center it around God. I was the only one trying to center things around God. That's truly what it felt like, that I was in this battle by myself. When you're in a relationship, or really y'all should be in the thick of it together. And it never felt like that for me. It never did. It never did. And I know too that I didn't want to give a child a, I didn't, I wanted to raise a child with a mother and a father. I didn't want to put myself in a position to where I, the child would have to grow up with separate households, or, and not that there's anything wrong with that, but if I see, if I've prayed about it and I see ahead and look ahead and truly finally listen to what God is telling me to do, which is to move around. He literally said, leave. If I was to be disobedient, I could see that going a totally different, I could see that going that route. I could see that going the route of a child with a broken home. And I did not want that, because that's what I kind of had, essentially, which I kind of explained in the beginning. I didn't have my dad around at all. And that's not to say that that would have been a thing, but any form of a broken household, I did not want for a child, because I know how that made me feel. That I know, ugh, because I know how that made me feel. And also, my God is telling me, leave. And as hard as it was, I just had to go, because I know that He did not call me to be abused and treated as such. And so I had to. One of the hardest things I ever had to do in my life, but I had to do it. And I just remember feeling a lot of guilt and shame, because I felt like as a Christian, like, it's probably not a good thing to get divorced. And I was more so worried about what people were going to think about it, or were going to say about it, or whatever. But because of the community I had a lot of support, and they didn't know anything that was going on, not in depth. And so when they kind of learned a little bit more, it was like, we're not going to condemn you. You're not going to be condemned for that. And ultimately, it's like I lived with the person, so I know what was going on. And something I want you to know is that in this year of 2025, I was officially divorced in 20 beginning of 2022. In this year of 2025, the word that God has given me is restoration, because God is a restorer. He has done nothing but restore. God is kind. God is faithful in everything that I have prayed for. I prayed for in the season of waiting, that I prayed for in a season of waiting, in a season of processing, in a season of healing. I am seeing now. Now, that what I feel is still a part of my testimony is my fitness journey. And I kind of posted already about this, like why I started my fitness journey. This was my testimony. This was the real in depth part. So if you go back and watch that video, you'll see me in 2022 still processing and kind of see how I really attempted to be vulnerable. And I did pretty good for the season I was in, and just expressing why I started my fitness journey. That is when I started my fitness journey. I moved out of that apartment. I let everything I had go, let him have it. Everything, furniture, all that stuff can be replaced. And I just wanted my physical health back, my mental health back. And I just moved to my mom's, and I, yeah, I ate a lot of food to cope, to feel comfort. I gained a lot of weight. I still had the hormone issues and dealing with the endometriosis, so I had a lot of inflammation. Plus, all the different types of food I was eating, more inflammation. On top of that, gained a lot of weight. And I remember telling myself, like, nah, we gotta get this together. Like, because I was just tired of feeling like crap. Like, I got myself out of the situation. Now it's like, okay, we can't continue to feel bad. We have to take care of our body so that we can continue to feel better overall. So that's what I did. And that's when my fitness journey started. And I got into bodybuilding and all the things. And I hope that you will watch that video, just so you can kind of, I pray that it just kind of shows you the growth in me as a person from where I was to where I am now. Another thing I forgot to mention is makeup. Makeup. That's when I started. When I started this channel, that's that was the ultimate goal. Is like this was gonna be a makeup channel. Like every makeup was popping off. It was during the pandemic, but it was also a form of escape for me. I was able to escape the reality that I was living by doing makeup, doing this artistic and fun thing that I truly enjoyed and I became extremely passionate about. And come to find out, I had some skills. Um, and I really dove into that so that I could not deal with the things that I was dealing with. So that's where makeup came in as well. One thing I'm grateful for, despite how hard the journey was, is God telling me to leave, because he was the only person, God was the only person that could have told me to leave. Couldn't nobody else tell me to leave? Nobody else. As a matter of fact, people tried. And we're talking about all the way at the beginning of the relationship. Let's not forget when the therapist told me that what he was doing was abusive. The only person that could have told me to leave was God. And after it was all said and done, I look back and I'm like, he been trying to get me out of that relationship. But it took for him to really sit me down and be like, no, you got to go. You got to get up out of here. You got to get up out of here. You do. And after my fitness journey started, and if you go look at those videos, I got my own place. I wanted to just have my own peace and my own space. And that is really where I truly gave my life to God there. And shortly after that, I got baptized. The summer of May of 2022. So I just had to surrender. I couldn't do nothing else. I had to surrender. Did I struggle as a believer? For sure. Definitely after that. For sure. I definitely did. However, that is where it was all said and done, because it was only him that could have got me out of something like that. It was only God that could have got me out of something that had such a hold on me. So I just want to say thank y'all. Thank y'all for tapping in. I pray that this blesses somebody, or helps somebody, or helps you help somebody. Um this is just your sign to believe what God is telling you, what God is showing you. And I just want to encourage somebody to stay the course, and keep having the faith. Never stop talking to God, never stop praying, and just listen to what he's trying to tell you. Get in the word and build intimacy with God. Have that relationship with him so that you can really be connected with him as well. Because I'm telling you right now, if it wasn't for me continuously trying and talking to him, I don't know where I'd be. I know that was kind of an abrupt stop, and I know you've listened to me for an hour, but hear me out. There will be another part to this video, and it should not be as long. But I love y'all, and thank you for sticking around.